What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So, a question I get asked a lot is how do I feel about getting stationed in Japan? Do I recommend it? What's the experience like? Would I go back? So, today I want to go over the honest truth of being stationed in Japan and five things I really enjoyed and five things I hated. So, I will say being stationed in Japan overall is pretty cool, but you do end up working a lot. And if you're on a ship, you end up going on multiple deployments throughout the year and you spend a lot of time at sea. I think at one point I realized that I spent most of the year at sea. Like I spent more time on the ship than I did at my own house. And the thing that sucks about that is my friends that are in the States, they would go on a deployment, maybe leave for 6 to 9 months, not go on another deployment for a while. Overseas, we would go deployment, come in for maybe 2, 3 months, another deployment, come in for another 2, 3 months. So we're just like rapid fire back to back. But with that being said, the five things that I really enjoyed while I was in Japan is number one, the experience. Being stationed overseas, because you're out to sea more often, you're doing your job more often, you get a lot more experience. I made a rank really quickly. I went to schools quicker than my peers. I learned things quicker than my peers because I was always doing the job. And I actually really enjoyed that, at least the learning aspect of it. The second thing I would say I really enjoyed was just being in another country. When you go to another country, you kind of discover things that America can do better and different technology advances and different types of people. And it really opens your eyes. And I've been in other countries before, but living in another country for 2 years is different from just visiting a country for like a few days or a week. Three, I would say the things to do in Japan. Like, you could take a train almost anywhere. Um, you could go snowboarding. You could go to the desert. You could go mountain climbing. You can go hiking. There's just like an infinite amount of things to do. Um, some of the most notable things that I did, I would say, is like I went to Fuji Q, the park. They have a Naruto world, which is really dope. Um, I got to see like Tokyo, actually being able to go to Tokyo every other weekend and like and living the life in Tokyo is like different from anything I've ever experienced. Four, I would say, is the culture with the people stationed there. Like, I think I said that kind of weird, but when you're in the States, the second you leave base, everybody's American. You could run into like somebody in the military and not even know they're in the military, or end up at a party and like you're kind of like by yourself. But overseas, majority of the people that you would run into that are American off base are also military, so it kind of creates that community where it's like, like this person got your back, or at least if I'm lost, I could follow this person back to the train station because they're going back to base. And the fifth thing I would say is the overall cost of living in Japan. I feel like everything's cheaper. Like they have the 100 yen store, which sells like so much stuff. It's crazy. It's better than the dollar store over here. They have snacks that are cheaper. You could go get steak for cheaper, and the steak is better quality. They have like all these different thrift stores. So there's a lot of things to do for cheap. Also, some of the experiences, like I got to go to Shibuya Sky. When I went to London for my little vacation, I believe theirs was like $70 or something, but Shibuya Sky in Tokyo is only like $20, $30. And I'm like, I was shocked at how cheap that was. So I would say off the top of my head, those are the five things that I really enjoyed while I lived in Japan. And now I'm going to talk about the five things that I did not really enjoy. So most of these are going to have to do with the Navy, not necessarily Japan, but it's because there's certain restrictions and things that change when you're in the military and you're in another country. So the first one, as I mentioned earlier, the schedule, doing different things with other countries, doing deployments, doing just underways to test our gear. we spent a lot of time out to sea, and that's normal for ships that are stationed in Japan. The second thing I would say is being so far from home and also not knowing when you'll get a chance to go home. I had one chance to go home, and it was because I went to school. Outside of that, it's like for vacations, they had a certain type of rotation and schedule, and they would just pick like people based off of, I guess, when was the last time you went to the States, and like all these other um, check marks that you have to meet to go back home, and it kind of sucked. Also, having a 12 or 13 hour time difference really sucks because when I would call my parents, they would be sleeping and I would just be waking up, or they would call me when it's in the middle of the day for them and I'm like knocked out because it's in the middle of the night. So it was kind of hard to keep in touch with people sometimes. And with me going on deployments, it's like there would be months where my parents and my family don't really hear from me except for like emails and stuff. Number three, this is probably the thing that I hate the most, that I feel like could be changed if the Navy really wanted them to change it. The rules. Being stationed in Japan, there are so many rules that you have to follow. If you're E4 and below, there's a Liberty plan that you have to fill out. So you have to tell your supervisor, your chief, your officer, everybody above you what you're doing every single day. And if you deviate from the plan and get caught, you can get in trouble. There's also a curfew, and if you get caught after curfew, you can get in trouble. Also, if somebody goes to Tokyo and does something crazy and messes up, and they decide to recall everybody, everybody gets punished for the one person or group of people that decided to go to this place and act out, which really sucks. And I think the thing that I hated the most out of the rules was honestly when you're E4 and below, there's a lot of restrictions that you have, like housing restrictions. You're not allowed to have a license and like some other small things. But me being a big car person, it really sucked for my first year or year and a half in Japan. I couldn't drive a car just because I didn't have enough rank. And I'm like, I'm a 25-year-old person, and you're saying that you can't trust me to drive a car because this 22-year-old is an E5 and they outrank me. That doesn't make any sense to me because like your rank doesn't necessarily show your responsibility. And on top of that, they also charged higher insurance for people that had lower rank. So when I first made E5, I realized that my insurance was more than everybody that ranked above me. And I feel like that's kind of backwards because if you rank higher, wouldn't you have more money for if there was an accident? And then also back to the age thing, in the States, if you're older and you have a good driving history, your insurance would be lower. Over there, it's based off of the base and they do it by rank. So it doesn't matter if you're a 40-year-old E4 and a 22-year-old E5, that E5 is going to be paying less in insurance than that E4, which kind of it's unfair. And number four, I would say, is COVID. Because I was there during COVID, it really sucked watching my friends on Snapchat and Instagram turning up, living their best lives in the States. And in Japan, everything was closed down. Like, you couldn't really go out to eat. There was curfews everywhere. Like, everything was shut down. At one point, they didn't even allow you to leave base unless you lived off of base. So COVID really sucked being stationed in Japan. And five, I would say, is sometimes things feel targeted because you're American. Like, there's certain businesses that won't let you in because you're American. Sometimes you'll go somewhere and if you don't speak English, they kind of have like a look or attitude towards you. Did I say that right? No. If you go somewhere and they don't speak English, they'll have a look and an attitude towards you, even if you're trying to use Google Translate and all this stuff. And it kind of sucks because even if you're trying to be respectful, sometimes there's already like a predetermined like mindset. Oh, you're American, so you fit this category, or you fit the people that's done all this stuff before, because there has been accidents that's happened with Americans in Japan that would lead to them not liking us. But it kind of sucks getting categorized in that just because you're in the military and you're American. So I would say that summarizes my pros and cons of being stationed in Japan. One thing that is a pro that I didn't get to really experience is ports. Usually, if you're stationed overseas, you hit more ports. I was there during COVID, so we had some restrictions. We did hit a few ports, but it wasn't anything crazy like how it usually is. But now they're getting back into that rhythm of hitting all these cool ports like Singapore and Thailand and stuff. So if you are trying to get stationed over there, I don't want to discourage you. I would just say do your research. There is a lot of mental health issues, people that don't really like being away from their families, people that gets thrown into the schedule that's chaotic and starts messing with their mental. So I would say do your research and really prepare yourself, because you're going to spend a decent amount of time out to sea and a decent amount of time away from your family. But in return, you get to do some pretty cool stuff and see some stuff that some people may never see in their lifetime. So if you like this video, leave a like below. Leave a comment if you've been stationed in Japan and you want to share your experience, or if you have any questions. And I'm out.